Howdy folks, Nullified here once again. Just wanted to cover some of the finer details with respect to wormholes. A lot of people don't know some of the little subtleties that may or may not get you killed in the long run. So I figured I'd just cover the ones that matter anyway, just so you can better protect yourself or at least be more knowledgeable. So, first thing that I want to talk about, probably the most noticeable one, is just the fact that local is not updated like you typically would think it is. Since this is wormhole space, you'll see in local, it's not up right now, but you'll see it says no subspace beacon located or something like that. So basically what happens is if someone is in local, you will not see them unless they talk. And then even then, after a certain amount of time, their name disappears. So, I mean, you could have someone roaming around trying to hunt you down, and you wouldn't know it unless you were scanning. Always scan. Scan every 30 seconds or a minute or even more often than that. I cannot tell you how many times I've been killed just because I've neglected to scan. It's just ridiculous. I mean, like, I'll be scanning for 5-10 minutes or whatever, and just be like, oh yeah, I don't have to worry about it, no one's coming. And then 2 minutes later, fucking get ganked because some douche comes up and rips me a new one when I'm doing an anomaly. So just keep that in mind. Local doesn't update, so just keep scanning, and you should be fine. That's all it takes. Always add your probes to your filter if you do use active overview settings, just so you can see if someone's trying to scan you down. So that's local. The other thing I want to note is that depending on the type of wormhole you're in and what class it is, you will have different modifiers for your base attributes on your ship. And what I mean by that is things like your shield, recharge rate, resistances, inertial multiplier, all kinds of good stuff. So really the way to figuring out what those disadvantages are going to be, because they're all disadvantages, there's no advantage to any of them, but really the way of doing it is to look at your skybox. And what I mean by the skybox is this background image in Eve. It's this image that's painted in the background. I believe in Eve it's actually a sphere, so the sky sphere. But if I look around, I'll see like all this paint in the background, this nice beautiful space image. And here it is. This is what I was looking for. This is the main feature of this particular type of system. And I'm actually on the Evelopedia on my other monitor, which I can't show you right now just because of the software I'm using. But on the Evelopedia, it lists all the different types of wormholes and the different modifiers associated with them. So this happens to be a black hole. All you got to do is you just look at the skybox, compare it to the images on the Evelopedia, and you can tell which kind of system you're in. And then depending on the class, you just match up. So since this is a black hole system, my inertial multiplier, this is a class 3, so this would be a 1.55 inertial multiplier. And max range is 0.73, so multiply inertia multiplier by my inertia, and that'll give me what my I think I don't know if it should show up in here. So yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. So anyway, that's that. Depending on which solar type of system you're in, you'll have different types of stats. Pult Magnetar looks like it has the most crap. So, oh, I guess there are some advantages. So, like EM resistance, damage multiplier, inertia looks like it's a positive multiplier. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to mention were anomalies. So, since I'm in a wormhole, just like any other system, there are cosmic anomalies, but in wormholes, they are the sleeper cosmic anomalies. And so they're a little bit more dangerous. Sleepers are quite a bit more intelligent than your typical NPC rat. They actually do use some PvP more PvP oriented modules like warp scramblers, jammers, tracking disruptors, that kind of garbage. A little bit more difficult to fight, and they do quite a bit more damage too. They also have much higher resistances than you're used to for fighting NPCs. So it makes it more fun, more enjoyable, also more challenging. But that's what makes it more fun. So really all you got to do to find these is, I mean, you can use your onboard scanner, which is, it's kind of lame. You can still do it, but onboard scanner is only really good for like 2 AU, I think. Or you can use your probes, and really all you need is just one probe for, there's like 5 or 6 different types of sites. I mean, you have the base, you know, the gravimetric, lidar, radar, magnetometric, those sites. So depending on what type they are, you'll have a different type of base or anomaly. So like mining or hacking, you know, that kind of shit. But then you also have the basic ones, which you really only need one probe for. And I'll just prove this. But for the other types, like the magnetometric, and that, you'll need more than one probe to pinpoint them. But for the regular ones, you only need one. So I'm going to actually increase this to 32, just because that's about how big the solar system. You can see my solar system is a little bit smaller than the 32 AU. So the 32 AU covers pretty much the entire solar system. I'll just hit scan, and you'll notice that I get all the anomalies. And I believe there's only one right now, maybe 2. Yeah, just one basic one, and it's already at 100%. So, and even if I move this like all the way over here, I'll still get 100%. I'll just do it real quick just to show you. 5 seconds starts now. And here we go. And there you see, still 100%. So you only need one probe to get these basic ones. And these are really the ones I care about. I don't care about this crap. Although some of these will turn out to be your wormholes. And speaking of wormholes in the scanner, to me, it seems that depending on where the wormhole goes, it can be harder or easier to actually get 100% signal strength on them. And what I mean by that is, like, I mean, take this for example. I can be anywhere, have a single probe on top of it, and it'll give me 100%. Whereas some of these other anomalies, or signatures rather, it really depends. I mean, depending on how close the probe is to the actual signature, the strength will increase or decrease. But it seems that the wormholes, you need the probes to be significantly closer to the wormholes to get the same type of signal strength, a higher signal strength. So that's something to keep in note. I do believe also that, from my experience, it seems that it's easier to find the low sec entry points than the high sec ones. And I think that's also the case for other wormholes. So I think it's easier to find the wormholes than it is for low sec, and easier for low sec than it is for high sec, that kind of stuff. So I don't have any proof for that, but that just seems like the way it is. So that covers probing. I do want to talk about the timers, but before I do that, let's talk about the moons and planets. You'll notice that I have a pause here. This is my pause. I run this one. But you know, you can set up pauses at the moons, just like any other solar system in Eve that you can, like, you know, low sec or some high sec if you have the charters or whatnot. But the key thing here is that, first of all, it is considered 0-0, so you can do reactions and all that stuff. And the other thing is that moons have no materials to mine. So you can't mine moons at all for the materials to do reactions. You have to bring them in yourself. So that's, you know, something to keep in mind. The other thing is that if you need some kind of supplemental fuel coming in for your passes, the planets and wormholes tend to be pretty decent for materials. So you can make, you know, a decent amount of fuel. I mean, it's not going to cover your entire POS weekly budget or whatever for fuel, but it will make a decent dent in them and decrease your costs. And if you can decrease your costs, you increase your profit, and that matters, right? So just keep that in mind. It might be useful to do PI in the wormholes. So let's go to the wormhole. I'm going to talk about the timers now. There's actually two different timers when we're dealing with wormholes. One is the distortion timer, which I'll talk about later, and the other is the session change timer, which is really the main timer in Eve, the main one that's effective. Session change timer comes into play whenever you change the state of your ship. So like if your ship blows up, your session change timer gets reset. When you jump through stargates, when you eject, when you dock and undock. So anytime you change your position between solar systems or objects. So I mean, like if I just double click, I'm technically changing my ship position, but I'm not changing the state, like between two different solar systems or whatever. I hope you get what I mean. So your session change timer gets reset to 30 seconds whenever you do one of these state transitions. And for that 30 seconds, you can't do any other state transitions. So let's jump through this wormhole real quick. And the reason this works is because a wormhole, it's not technically a Stargate, but it works basically the same way. So I'll try jumping through again. I'll decloak real quick and then stop my ship. You can't. Yeah, decloak now. Try jumping through again. Can't do it. Session change already in progress. That's because of that timer. So all I gotta do is wait 30 seconds, and I'll be able to jump through again. But the other thing to notice is that for wormholes, unlike stargates, the jump range is actually 5 kilometers, so 5,000 meters, whereas stargates is 2,500 meters. And whenever you come out of a wormhole, whenever you jump through it, you are always within the jump range of the wormhole. So really, if you're transporting goods in between, like in and out of a wormhole or anything, and you're worried about getting blown up inside one or outside one even, all you got to do is keep your cloak in mind. And your cloak, what I mean by that is your cloak lasts for 60 seconds, and your session change timer lasts for 30. So do the math. All you got to do is wait 30 seconds, at least 30 seconds, and then you know that your session change timer is back down to 0, so you can jump out if you need to. And all you got to do is just what I did. You just double click somewhere, just uncloak, stop your ship, and then jump. That's it. What I like to do, I'll demonstrate it as I jump through here. What I like to do is click on the little icon. So you'll notice I'm still cloaked. I'm not going to move my ship. Where's the icon? Here it is. So I'll click this icon, and you'll notice over here in my overview, I get these little thingies over here. Now I can't jump through unless I uncloak. Actually, well, let's give it a shot. Yes, okay, well, that's a session change, so let's give it 30 seconds. What I do is I actually keep a clock running on my desktop because I got Windows 7. It's like one of those little widget things. And it's got a second hand, so I just look over when I jump, see where the second hand is, wait for 30 seconds to go by. And then I know I can uncloak and be safe about moving. That way if someone tries to lock me, I can immediately jump back through the wormhole. As long as I haven't jumped through too many times, which is a distortion timer. I'll talk about that in a second. So, let's try to jump through again. Oh, see, this is a distortion timer. So, I believe it's 3 minutes that it lasts for. So what happens is, if I use the wormhole too many times within a certain time frame, I actually can't use it for about 3 minutes. I believe it's 3 times in like a 1 minute time frame or something like that. I don't know. Maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes. I don't know what the time limit is. But anyway, the distortion timer lasts for just about 3 minutes. So I can't jump out of here. I can't use this wormhole at all for 3 minutes. So I'm kind of screwed if I'm jumping in and out a lot with goods and stuff, and I get caught on one side because I can't move. So if you have any questions or anything, feel free to post them and I will answer them to the best of my ability. Thanks for watching.